Rise and shine. Those words shouted into my bedroom darkness were part of my early morning routine I had unwillingly grown accustomed to as a kid. My mother's trumpet-like voice piercing the peace and quiet, and with just the flip of a light switch, otherworld dreams were chased away and defeated by a 100-watt light bulb stabbing its way into the darkness. That's the image that comes to my mind when I heard this morning's reading for the first time, the 60th chapter of Isaiah. After its opening words of "Arise and shine" comes the promise of someone whose light will not only dispel the thick darkness of ignorance and evil that covers the earth, but whose brightness and glory will attract people of all nations. In our second reading, the author of John's Gospel picks up on this defeat of the darkness by a bright and shining light in its opening chapter, describing Jesus as the source of life and light, and reminding the audience that the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. And John even portrays Jesus, describing himself as that light later on in the gospel. I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. But this idea of light overcoming darkness wasn't a new one. It stretched back thousands and thousands of years. In prehistoric times, the dark days of winter would have been a difficult time for people who depended upon the land for their survival. Every year they would have worried and fretted as the life-giving sun seemed to sink lower and lower in the sky. With each day growing shorter, they would have feared that the sun would eventually disappear and leave them in permanent darkness and cold. But miraculously, each year on December 21st or 22nd, things seem to turn around. With the arrival of what we have come to know as the winter solstice, the days began to lengthen again. Everyone had reason to celebrate. It was as if the great light was reborn. Light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. And in Hinduism, the oldest known religion in the world, it also has its celebration of light overcoming darkness, known as Diwali, or the Festival of Lights. It marks the return of Lord Rama to his kingdom after defeating the demon king Ravana, signifying the victory of good over evil. Light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. Over and over and over throughout history, we have the recurring theme of light overcoming darkness, of the victory of goodness over evil. And for Christians, that's best illustrated in the person of Jesus Christ. Within a few days, the Western Christian Church will celebrate the Epiphany, in which we commemorate the arrival of the Magi who came to worship Jesus. Jesus, who was manifested to the world as God. Jesus, whose light shined in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. An old Jewish story tells of a rabbi who asked his disciples, "How do you know when the night is giving way and morning is coming?" One of the disciples stood and said, "Teacher, won't you know that night is fading when through the dim light you can see an animal and recognize whether it's a sheep or a dog?" The rabbi answered, "No." "Rabbi," said another, "won't you know that the dawn is coming when you can clearly see enough to distinguish whether a tree is a fig tree or an olive tree? No, responded the teacher. You'll know that the night has passed when you can look at any man and any woman and discern that you are looking at a brother and a sister. Until you can see with that clarity, the night will always be with us.